everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of The Witching Hour. Yet another special one because we seem to have really great luck with guests. We have one great guest after the next. Of course, it is It Chapter 2 time. I'm sitting here. I'm Perri. That's Haleigh. But the person you need to know right now is James Ransone. PJ, actually, right?
Well, you don't. I mean, we can call me PJ when the cameras are off.
Okay. Okay. Just curious. Where did the nickname come from?
I'm not gonna. I can't. I'm not gonna. I'll just tell you that the J in the name is short for Jimmy, but I will not tell you what the P stands for.
Okay.
And my real name is James. No, it's not that. It was like it actually helped to be like. If someone calls the house and they're like, "Is James there?" It's a police officer. I'm like, "Oh, this person knows my formal name, but they don't know me personally."
Okay.
That's smart.
Well, I wasn't calculated. By the way.
I was very thrown off at the junket the other day when they're
and they were like PJ?
What did PJ think? Yeah.
Well, that was also kind of like some of that was just now it's just gonna stick, but it was too hard because of McAvoy too.
That
like,
makes
can we
sense.
get James? I'd be like, which one?
Well, I keep effing up Bill.
Yeah.
Like Bill Hader or Bill the character.
Or Bill Skarsgård.
Or Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there was Andy Muschietti and Andy Bean.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
What a scene.
Yeah, that's
I was like,
a
whose
little
house are we
confusing there.
barking at? Like, this is going to be one long summer. You're his dad. Whoa.
So you have quite a few horror credits to your name.
Yeah, I have a few.
Yeah. I still have my Sinister poster
But
hung up on my wall.
Yeah, I did a Sinner. Yeah.
Two
so.
Sinisters. You worked with Ty West before too.
Oh, I guess I always forget that Ty gets pegged as like a horror director.
Yeah,
I just don't consider him that.
Oh,
But I just don't. I understand
that's
why.
That's more of like a Western anyway.
Yeah.
No, I just meant more is that we're such close friends for so long that I just the conversations we have aren't about like we've talked about Hader and I talked about this in a bunch of interviews, which is horror will always be profitable. Will always be a market for horror in the in the entertainment industry. It's just like if you make a horror movie, you will find someone to give you money for it because they can always sell it. And so it's one of the few places where you can have a new voice to be able to utilize that genre. It's like you can tell a type of story that you want to underneath horror. You know what I mean? Like as long as you can frame it within that genre, you'll get your movie made. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so that's why I don't see Ty as like a horror person. You know, I feel like Sam Raimi, like a lot of those guys, like they're horror. They were making horror movies, but I don't think that their end all be all was just to stick in a genre.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's probably a reason that's why a lot of great filmmakers start in horror.
Yeah, and I also think we're in kind of one of those, like, if we were talking about this too, you're almost 20 years past the 90s, and I remember growing up that what happened was the music video and of the, like, alternative rock scene, as well as even hip-hop to some degree, a lot of directors cut their teeth in music videos. You have Fincher and Spike Jonze and all those guys, and then they became sort of the big voices of the 2000s, you know, and then now that no one watches music videos anymore, I feel like we're in this part of the cycle again where it's back to horror, right? It's like back to horror to have younger, newer voices use horror as a, you know, sort
I'm really
of their
just
testing ground.
Hung up right now on you saying it's 20 years after the 90s.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think I've
fun.
heard anybody put it that way, but it makes me feel really distant from my
it's
childhood
crazy, man. Yeah, it's 20 years. Isn't that nuts?
It
I
is.
still think it's like let's put on, you know, let's put on I Smell Sex and Candy or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with putting that on.
Yeah, no, that's a horrible song.
What
actually.
disturbs me is
It's not.
realizing that when I was a kid and like thought about the 70s as like, ooh, cool, retro. That's how
Yeah, well,
far
that's
away
how
we
kids
are.
are.
now.
That's how 19-year-olds are thinking about the
Yeah.
70s.
It's
The
rough.
90s.
That's crushing.
Yeah, that's why you can see it on the American Horror Story posters.
Yeah.
Right? It looks like the marketing for I Know What You Did. Or it looks like the marketing for Wild Things, actually.
Oh my God, I have not thought about that.
It
movie
does
in
look
a
like I
while.
Know What You Did Last summer. The painting, the
totally.
I can see
posters
that.
look like I Know What You Did
So
last
are
summer.
you a big horror fan outside of work life? Do you watch a lot of horror movies?
But again, this is more the like I watch what I find to be good directors making horror movies. Like I'm a big John Carpenter fan, like a really big John Carpenter fan. You know, I really like Sam Raimi. I think his best work is actually Drag Me to Hell.
Nice.
Yeah, Drag Me to Hell is one of my favorites. It's just so funny and gross.
It is, and we
know
were
what I
just
mean?
talking about it's the crazy hardest PG-13 film.
But they were like, he just made them so much money with Spider-Man, where he was like, I feel like he was like his like palate cleanser. He's like, I'm done with Spider-Man, and I'm just gonna make. And they just were like, go make whatever you want. And I think that that's what he did. And it's cool.
He's the
to
greatest
watch that.
too, because he makes movies like that, and then he also uses all the power he has to foster new talent in the horror genre too, and give them opportunities.
I heard he's the nicest man ever. I've heard from a lot of people that he is the nicest, kindest man. So, yeah, I like Sam Raimi a lot. John Carpenter. I know Daniel Davies, who is basically like John's son, who is in his band with him. So. Yeah, so I know how that whole record got put together and stuff, and it was cool. Yeah.
Very nice. Have you seen them play?
Yeah, many times.
Very fun.
I always go on Halloween.
Heck yeah.
We were
like
there
my
last
Halloween.
year.
Yeah.
It was the greatest thing ever.
Oh, right. I'll give you my number after we leave. I'll text you after the show for real, because Daniel's a friend of. But you know what? I don't know if I'm going to go this year. Because I think the OCs are playing on Halloween.
Oh, because it's going to be Halloween night, isn't it?
Yeah, but then
I can't go, and that makes me sad.
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to play or not. I haven't talked to Daniel. I have to ask him.
I hope they do, but I hope they do one night before.
Yeah.
And
Going
by the way,
to New York
John's son Daniel Davies is a really talented musician in his own right, and he's the guitar player in that band. But he's started scoring a lot of stuff, and it's cool. It sounds like some of the stuff he does sounds more like the really tripped out analog Kubrick stuff, you know, like from The Shining. I don't know why I'm plugging Daniel. He doesn't have a record out or anything.
That's what friends are for, right?
Yeah,
totally.
really.
Yeah, but I might go see the OCs.
Right on.
Did you listen
Okay.
to those records? Do you know those records?
No.
Oh, you guys.
The
it's like
OCs?
fun?
We're expanding our horizons.
Yeah, really.
Well, because he was in this guy, I forget his name, but he was like friends with Ty Segall and in this band called the Coach Whips that everybody was into in LA. But they got in the last couple of years like crazy prog rock. So it's like super D&D kind of metal. You dig it if you're into horror. Yeah. I don't know, but I am assuming that because you like horror movies, you must be like a Rush nerd or something. But you're not, because no women like Rush.
Maybe not that.
Yeah, no women.
I go all the way from John Carpenter to alt rock, and that's about it.
I'll tell you this much though. You know, I've discovered the male equivalent to Rush, I believe, is Prince.
Really?
Yeah. Which is my wife's like, you want to listen to Prince? I'm like, no, never.
I thought everyone loved Prince.
Exactly.
Wow.
I feel like Prince is yeah, she's cool. But I'm never going to be like, you know what I have to listen to right now is Raspberry Beret.
I feel world
Let me
shattered.
pop it in. You do?
A little.
As much as I'm like world shattered by I'm like a lot of girls don't like Rush. They hate Rush. They're like, I can't listen to this.
I don't hate Rush.
It just doesn't come
Well,
on my playlist.
not
By the
really.
way, exactly how I feel about Prince. Even though I was listening to Prince this morning, which is weird, like 6:30 in the morning. Because Chappelle, did you see any of the new Chappelle?
No.
He starts off by quoting the lyrics to Party Like It's 1999, and they're really dark. They're not.
Not a party song?
No, it's not a party song.
I'll have to check that out. Did you like the new special?
I didn't. I watched like 30. I was 30 seconds of it.
Oh, there we go.
It was like 6:30 in the morning. I was like, I have to get in the shower. I've had no time off the last couple of days.
Very
so.
true.
But yes, I'm back to the original question. I am a horror fan. Why? What do you guys like?
As in
Horror.
Are we talking movies
horror,
or music?
No, horror. As like horror stuff that you're into.
My favorite horror movie of all time is Scream. That
really?
was like the gateway for me. That's the movie that made me appreciate horror, not just on an entertainment value level, but just the craftsmanship and how it can make that thrill can make me feel. I have a cat named Deputy Dewey, and between that and Jurassic Park, I'm very thankful that I was allowed to see those in theaters when I shouldn't have, because that's what made me not just someone who likes to go see movies for fun, but who appreciates every single ounce of blood, sweat, tears, energy, money that goes into it.
So yours is Scream, and what's yours?
Well, I echo all the same things she said because I think we were born the same year, so probably had
When
the
were
same
you born?
experience. None of your business, buddy, or any of these listeners.
Oh, all right. She doesn't look a day over 24, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
thank you. So kind. I am. But I also would throw in The Thing as maybe my other favorite.
The Thing, really?
Yeah.
John Carpenter.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's
I'm
good.
obsessed with that movie.
I was you were kind of dating. You were making me feel old. Where you're like, mine is Scream, and I was like, oh my god. I feel old now.
Older movies as well.
I feel like you've got more refined taste than I do.
Oh,
I'm
that's
very
not
much
true.
like 90s slasher junk. I mean, not that Scream is junk, but it's like Scream was the obsession. I know what you did last summer.
Scream is cool. I forget there was some film theorist critic in like the 90s, and I like it was kind of like a really well articulated thesis that it was like the reason why all of those movies were popular in the 80s is because it was the loss of Victorian values, right? And that Scream is basically just coming right out and saying like, yes, that's true, right? Which is the only person who survives that movie is the person without sin, right? The babysitter survives because she's still the virgin because she overcame her basically like carnal desires, and by that being like virtue.
But did she?
What?
She actually didn't.
Well, in
Jamie Lee
Scream.
Curtis?
Oh, yeah, I'm going back to Scream.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but she almost gets whacked though. But I'm
Right.
talking more
Yeah.
like Halloween.
Right.
Sorry, I'm like jumping around. A little bit. But the Scream comes right out and says like this is why sort of underneath all of that, like this is why we gravitate towards those movies, and I'm not inclined to disagree with that all the time either.
No, I mean, there's a point to it. There's like a lot of belief that the first wave of slashers were actually conservative films because they were punishing anyone who was acting in a, sort of.
I don't want to even get into the like idea of like moral conservatism. Like I don't necessarily I don't mean it in like
in
that.
a political way necessarily. I mean, in terms of who was being punished, it was like the people who were having premature sex, doing drugs. Those sort of values were what were being put forth, and then sort of Scream would be the one that addressed it and made it.
Yeah, I think that, but I'm saying like it was probably the first postmodern horror movie, but there were a bunch of academic film scholars who had sort of like addressed that even earlier before, and so it was cool for Wes Craven to come out and go like, yeah, no, that's exactly what's going on, So that's cool. Scream, The Thing. There's a line in.
Oh yeah.
And Bill did that, right? Bill, there's a line in
did.
chapter 2.
He improv'd it?
Yeah, no, because we looked it up. What does he say? Fuck. What is he? He's
Oh
like,
God, it's like one of the most famous lines, but because you're asking, I won't remember. You got to be fucking kidding me.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. Yeah, we looked it. Yeah, I remember us filming and we were like, what was the line from The Thing where they saw it? And then we YouTubed it, and Andy was like, brilliant, put it in.
Excellent. I'd throw Alien in there too.
Alien,
Oh
the
my
first
God,
one.
absolutely. Yeah.
I
Are
like
you
monster movies.
Alien over Aliens?
Yes.
You too?
I don't know. It's so weird, man. Actually,
They're so different.
Yeah, but I just more think of the directors where it's like that Ridley Scott, the first one, it's like so slow. Most people couldn't be put up with that today, like how slow it is. I mean, I really enjoy that. And then, James Cameron's like the second one. And if you kind of break down every James Cameron thing, they're basically just running from something for like 90 minutes. It's like that's what it is. And he's really into like you're being chased. You're either being chased by the sinking ship, you know what I mean, or you're being chased by the Terminator. Or you're like being chased by the aliens underwater. By the way, have you ever seen the making of The Abyss?
No.
I've never seen that.
I highly suggest. I think it's like a 6-part series on YouTube.
Okay.
You should watch the making of The Abyss. All of if anyone out there is like a movie buff, because Chapter 2 is a little difficult to film, and Hader and I would talk about it. He'd be like, here, watch this. And I watched it. I felt so much better at night. Like, it is the craziest stuff happens on the filming of that movie. It's like I can't believe it. I would have been like, oh, I would have killed myself halfway through this. Yeah.
My follow-up to that regarding it, Chapter 2, and I feel like we should have like a buzzer or something. If you've been asked this question 500 times on this epic press tour.
I'll just go, and then you have to get the crash cart in here.
I'm totally fine with that at this point. It Chapter 2, you said, was an especially difficult movie to film.
I don't want to say it was an especially difficult. It was a lot of set pieces. That script was 200 pages.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with Andy. It was a lot of movie to stuff into that movie.
Was there anything in particular that you walked into and you're like, I'm going to be fine, I got my shit together for this, and then it threw you for a loop?
Shit?
Being
100%.
Super difficult.
100%. That, so I don't want to get into like spoiler thing, but there's a whole big set piece at the end, the whole end sequence. And there were a lot of strobe lights there, right? Like a lot of strobe lights firing in and out of sequence. So, and we were covered in dirt and grime. And like, I don't want to complain about being an actor because it's not that bad. It's not like coal mining or like going into a conflict zone or like but there's a certain amount of psychological torture to it because you just do it over and over and over and over again. And so we would leave, and I wouldn't know what time of day it was, where I'd like walk in, I'd be like, "What? Did I eat breakfast?" Or, "Oh my God, it's 2 a.m." And then it's like the strobe light made you insane. But I lost it one day because they went off to film a different scene, the rest of them, and I wasn't in it, and I had to do second unit stuff of like this, where I was walking into the thing, and they must have done it 15 times. I was like, "You tell fucking Andy that I am done. I'm not walking in here again." I was like, "Here, you take this." Because I got into a point where I was like, "Oh, I'm in the Truman Show." They want to see where, like, when they're like, the agent Smith is like, "This is where we break Morpheus's programming into square waves," and I'm like sitting there, and I was like, "Oh, they want to see where my thought pattern changes." Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to appreciate all your entrance scenes a million times more now.
Yeah, like there's like, and then they're like, then because what they would have to do is they would film it, then satellite it, have to watch Andy wait to give approval, and then come back and be like, no, he wants you to do it again and do 2 turns. Look around. I was like, "I am done. You tell Andy." And so then the joke was like, "Come on, man. If you mouth off, I'll put you at second unit again." And I'd be like, "Shut up."
Is that the typical process with second unit, the idea of satelliting that footage to the director all the time?
No, that type of stuff, I feel like it depends. It literally depends, But Andy's such a stickler, and this is actually what I appreciate about Andy too. It's like, if you like the movie or don't like the movie, there's not one uninteresting frame in the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Like, it is, I'm like, oh man, every frame, there's something going on in where it was like because he was a storyboard artist first, right? And then he was a director. And what's really cool, and a lot of people don't talk about this, and this is some 70s stuff, is he creature designed Pennywise.
I do remember that.
That's a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
Like a really big deal that people don't talk about, especially if you have any understanding of the history of cinema. Right? That stuff is always outsourced. Right? So to have the director creature design, that stuff is usually outsourced to like big, like they'll get together with an artist and they'll be like, "No, I want it more like this."
I think he was playing it cool on set. We were there for the first movie, and he was like, "Yeah, I did some sketches." Like, I think he was underselling the extent to which he designed it.
Oh, yeah.
From what you're saying.
So for as much as he would get even, like, attention to detail with me, which is like, "I want you to turn around twice," right? He would get, when Bill Skarsgård was on camera, it was like, "Oh, I want to move this one, like, drip of blood, like, literally, like Fincher level OCD about what the frame should look like, So that's why, like, Bill Skarsgård has like the patience of a Zen monk.
Whenever someone asks me now, "Did you know this about Andy Muschietti?" I'm like, "Haleigh, did you know that?"
I did not. I have interviewed the Muschiettis a number of times in the last 2 years. Yeah.
I got to talk to Barbara for the first time the other day, and after you teed her up so high, I was so nervous to walk into that room.
No, she's like the nicest.
Delight.
She's so lovely.
She's the
she
nicest
really
person.
is.
She's actually the nicest person in the entire world.
She feels a little to me like the unsung hero of the It movies.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure to wrangle 7 idiot children and then 7 idiot adults
Oh
who
man,
play those
looking
7,
at the junket as
14.
like, this had to have been a nightmare.
Okay, so
Like,
imagine being completely shit-faced on like the biggest bottle of Jägermeister. Now imagine you leave the bar around 2:30, and then the question is where are we gonna go next? All 14 of your friends, and that is exactly what it's like to get everybody together. They're like, Carl went to get pizza, Amy's crying, like they're like, where? And somebody's like, where are we fucking going? Like, oh, I'm like, where? You know.
There's that,
Yeah.
and then you crawl out of bed the next morning.
No,
and
but do you know that
interviews.
moment? You know that moment where you leave the one bar with all of your drunk friends, and you're like, where are we going next? And it's gonna take literally 4 hours to get half a block away.
Absolutely.
That is what it's like for Barbara to wrangle all of these people to get them onto set.
Bless her.
Seriously.
Yeah. And to do it sort of like without, cause she's beautiful and she still has all her hair. Do you know what I mean?
That's really an
She's
accomplishment
holding
for
it really
anyone
well.
who's
I
a
wish I
producer.
had it. I took it off. I was on this WhatsApp thread, and one day, Hader sent me a picture of our first assistant director, Michael Lerner, and he's literally like this. And it was not staged. He took it from like across the room. I was like, "Oh, Michael's gonna kill himself." Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
But
There's another
made-
unsung hero of a film
Michael
set.
Lerner. Michael Lerner.
An assistant director.
Michael Lerner. Just like throw the script pages up at a certain point. Yeah.
we love hearing these behind the scenes stories. I mean, I think every movie that gets made is a minor miracle.
Yeah.
No, it's not a minor miracle. It's a major miracle. Miracle movies should not get made. Like every time. And then, again, Bill and I were talking about this because I've been doing this for so long. It's like the fact that they even come out.
Yeah.
Like, there's stuff where you're like, oh, well. There's movies I forgot I was in because they don't come out.
For sure.
You know? I'm not kidding.
You have like an endless resume
It's
too.
really
It's like I have the titles that are at the top of my head all the time, but I started to scroll through and I'm like, oh, he was in that and that
Yeah.
and that, and it just
There's
goes on
movies
and on.
I forgot that I've been in, by the way, for real.
I will obviously never forget Sinister in particular because Bagula's on my wall for
Sure,
life, and
fair.
I'm fine with it now. Years later,
Scott Derrickson was at the premiere the other night. by the
was
way.
he
Yeah,
really?
he brought his kid.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy for him and what he's doing
Doctor
right now.
Strange?
Yes,
Yeah.
I
bring some genre to the MCU, please.
I have not seen any of those movies.
Really?
I haven't turned on my TV in 5 years.
Oh.
Sweetheart, I work in the sausage factory. I'm a vegetarian.
What do you do with your free time then?
Read.
Oh, much better for the
I'm a
brain.
big
So I
reader.
guess safe to assume you are well read in Stephen King novels.
No, not all of them. I mean, when I was a kid, I read The Stand. Again, Ty West gave me this book. It was On Writing. I think his best book is On Writing. Did you read it?
I did not read that.
It's his best book.
I've been
amazing.
devouring. So I grew up never reading, ever. I had so many people in my life who said, you have to read all these Stephen King books because it's right up your alley. And it wasn't until, and this is why I love the first It movie so much, because it opened my life up to Stephen King. Ever since that movie hit theaters, I have not stopped listening to Stephen King audiobooks.
That's not the same as reading, my friend.
Don't give fuel to the commenters. They say the same thing to me all the time. You
But
would
did you feel the
appreciate it, though.
smoke off of that one?
There's a cool performance aspect to it, though, because some of the narration, it's like, go listen to Pet.
same as reading.
It's not. Listen to Pet Sematary, narrated by Michael C. Hall,
That's all right.
and it's
you know
amazing.
what I'll do? I'll read it.
Oh, burned.
I've got to be
You're
able
burnt.
to run and listen to my books at the same time.
I really feel like it develops this part of your brain that helps with imagination and creativity
It's
in a
true.
way that it's actually more passive than you think it is. And like, because your brain starts conjuring pictures that are associated with other people's words, and so you don't really even have to work that hard, but then you're using your imagination passively and actively. And I feel like that will actually, if you do that enough, it will inform a bunch of other creative things that you want to do that you have yet to do.
That is a very good way to put it. I cannot refute any of that.
Do you know what I mean? And like, and then I'm like, no, you should read. You should read whatever you like. Everybody should read whatever it is that they like, but they should just read. And I don't mean that they should only read. And it's like I don't want to take that away from people, but I got so much more joy of reading as an adult than I did.
You have my word. After the marathon training is done, I will crack open a physical book,
running
like
a
a real, hold it in my hand. Yeah, it's a nightmare. I can't.
Why? Are you doing the 25K?
No, the full thing. New York City Marathon, November 26.2.
How are you doing? No.
Funny you should ask. Almost dropped dead at 12 miles of my last half, but I managed to plow through and get to the end.
Did they look at your gait and your foot placement and all that stuff?
A little bit, yeah. We have a mutual friend.
Are you heel running or are you midfoot running? Ooh.
I've never really thought about it like that. Whatever my form is okay, because we have a buddy who is actually a professional running coach, and he said I looked okay.
Double check, make sure, because I feel like
midfoot running doesn't, like, are you talking about where your foot pounds the pavement?
Where your foot actually lands and where you press off from. You should never heel strike.
No.
No, but your heel at that point should actually never almost touch the ground.
Okay. I'm like learning all of this stuff that I didn't think I would. Now I'm motivated to.
I know.
Did you read Born to Run? How about we start with Born to Run?
Okay.
Do you know about the Taro Marin and Copper Canyon?
No.
It's this group of Mexican runners that will run like 50 to 75 miles a day, and they wear they're just called like Taro Marin sandals, and they're basically made of old tire. So that was why people started barefoot running. Nike ruined our feet in the 70s. And like most people have all these like back problems and their posture's all messed up because people can't run and walk correctly.
My shoes are Nikes.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you say this was that I should read?
Born to Run?
Born to Run.
I think that's what it is. Just double check and make sure it says like something.
One of the first things that came up was Born to Run. Born to Run, A Hidden Tribe, Super Athletes, and the Greatest Race the World. ... because the title isn't fit.
It is a long title.
The world has never seen.
I don't remember all of that. I'm not that big of a reader.
I did the backwards, though, and during my training, I listened to The Long Walk.
Oh, there you go.
That's like a weird way to motivate yourself, but it worked.
But I feel like people fix their back problems and stuff if they learn how to. Because then they started filming. You know how like those Africans will run just like 50 to 75 miles, and they're like, okay, go. Like, what's for dinner? Then they started studying where their feet land because they don't wear shoes. And it's like, dude, the foot's a literal work of art. The arch, like Da Vinci talks about this. To be load bearing and to have that like dorsiflexion in your ankle, and so shoes ruined us because we started walking and running incorrectly.
There was one guy who did that half the other day, completely barefoot. Ooh. And I looked at him, I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but there is a purpose to it.
The first time I really tried to do it, I realized, and run with like midfoot strike. This is so boring for your audience. So sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I like couldn't walk for 3 days because my calves started working again.
Huh. Yeah. I'm going to be thinking about this now with every step that I take.
You've given her a new fixation.
I know, really.
Yeah,
and a book to read.
Don't freak out about it. You'll just save your body later from injury.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah. I've heard horror stories post-marathon training.
No. Just, I mean, in life, if you learn how to run or walk correctly, which is like hitting the right place on your foot.
I plan on being able to stand up straight and doing sports until the day I die. So
well,
anything I can do to preserve
correctly.
that.
Trust me, most people don't.
I will take it.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of the running hour.
We're done.
Yeah.
People are like, what is this, a New Balance show? I want to listen
for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm no Barbara Muschietti. You guys have big cups of coffee.
I kind of want to just like see you and Jack sit down and have a casual conversation because your cadence is so on point with his. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have to kind of practice that through before you hit the set? Or is that something you naturally were just able to do?
In the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, you know how like they slowed down the Steve Perry tapes to make his voice sound higher? Anybody like Journey? No? All right. I'm really dating myself now. No, I just watched the movie and I thought, like, okay. He was speaking so fast in the first one that I thought, like, I don't know if I can actually do it. Like, I'm old and tired. and then I didn't really practice that much. But yeah, I just went in and did it the best that I could. Yeah.
Did he review your performance?
No. Yeah. I was wearing an
I feel
earwig.
like he would
He'd be
just
like,
have, like,
no, idiot, stop. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And then I'd
like
walk
he would
away,
have
like,
sort
I'd
of-
be in tears, and no one knew what was going on because I was wearing a little earpiece.
I dig his sense of humor. I feel like he'd have like a really fun, snarky way to come at that.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like, I saw that kid, and I was like, that kid's a freak. He's got such raw, natural... what he's able to do on camera, and have you seen like the behind-the-scenes stuff and his like ability to improv? It's not you can't teach that to a person.
Yeah.
It's so raw and so like, I'm like, oh, man, that's crazy, you know? And then there's similar things. There's stuff that I see kind of like in a overarching... that has not little to do with our like actual like the day-to-day stuff that we're into, but I'm like, oh, I can kind of track what I think your life is gonna look like. You know, I think things will be hard for him at a certain point because you can't have a brain that fast. It's hard. It's difficult. It's difficult to relate to people.
I mean, that's interesting that you put it that way.
Yeah.
Did you guys like ever? I mean, this is like a deep
he's like
question.
because he's like 16 and I'm like a 40-year-old man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't want anything to do
Sit
with
around,
me.
get some drinks.
Yeah, it's
shoot
like
the
it's
shit.
like me
Yeah,
talking to
that's
him
not
about his
happening.
life is like the most boring thing that he could possibly imagine.
Then it'll come a point when he
I
really
don't
appreciates
think he's
it,
gonna
though.
have a hard life for any other reason than like I just know what it's like to be able to like to have the synapses fire that
Yeah.
fast, and sometimes you start to go like you can become really self-conscious, and then you're like, wait, what's wrong with me? But nothing, right? Like that's the
Right.
thing, and then you know, but it can be when you're young, that shit can bring up insecurity, you know. So, or not, because he's also like
Yeah.
a famous movie star,
I
and
was
everything
gonna-
might be fine
hopefully
for
his
him.
career track will prevent
Yeah,
that sort
so-
of.
well,
No, I'm-
You never know.
yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, he's doing good things right now.
He sure
No,
is.
He's
it's-
having one
I
heck
don't-
of a
it's a
year.
good
Wait, hold
time.
on a second. Like, just to be clear, I just feel like I know what it's like to be a sensitive person who thinks very quickly, and it's
Yeah.
not always the easiest thing in the entire world. And only with age have I been, because I just don't care anymore. That's really the simple answer.
Literally the one good thing about aging. The
It's
less
not
fucks
caring.
you give, yes.
Oh yeah.
Everything else is really rough.
So I'm stuck with
I don't
Jewish
know,
guilt for the
man.
rest of my life, then, aren't I?
What?
Because I don't feel that at all.
Oh no, man. I don't.
time.
I don't feel that way. I don't feel like everything else kind of sucks. There's parts of it that's just great. I really believe it. I just had a kid, and it's like the best.
nice.
I never thought that I was going to want to have a kid, and it's like, I'm like, this is so awesome. It's so awesome. Even though my wife wants to kill me right now because I've been working for 3 days
Does
straight. She's like, when the fuck are you going to be home?
to tie it back into horror, has having a kid changed the way you respond to certain things in horror?
Yeah. I think so. Even though I didn't watch all of the movie, but like, I have a hard time watching like just violence on screen now. Just any violence, right? And especially if the characters are like superfluous, right? Right. So like I had a whole less to even do with the subject matter or the content. It's just like I just don't like watching violence. Like sometimes if you get into if you have the larger characters and they're subject to sort of like trials and tribulations, but if it's a means to an end to propel the story forward by putting violence in it, I'm like, I don't want to see that. I'm grossed out by it now. Does that make sense? Because you go like, well, somebody gets punched in the face and it's incidental in the larger part of the story, and I go like, well, I know why these things happen, but I don't like watching violence or gore for the sake of it being sort of like hitting a beat in a story.
What's an example of a positive effect anything horrific in a movie has had on you? Because I don't know, sometimes I find when we see those extremes on screen, it kind of puts, a certain reality I might be struggling with into a more digestible package where I might not think about it the same way otherwise.
Well, I think even like what you were talking about with Scream, it's like people got to a taste of like postmodernism where even though you go the opposite direction where you're like, yeah, people were doing drugs and like all this other stuff, I have a flip side of that where people go, well, wait, what does it mean to like be a teenager, and should I like not drink at a party? Like, should I like maybe not necessarily just give my virginity away to like the first idiot asshole that I date in 10th grade? Do you know? And like those are valid questions, right? And as long as people are questioning that, and if they are having that relationship in the context of any story, then that's good, right? Like dogmatism is bad, but anybody that says that, as long as people are having awareness of that stuff, for me, I think like the horror movie that I always, I don't even know if it's like a horror movie or. Do you ever see Audition? You know Audition?
Yes, I do.
Audition's a rough one. We've been talking about that a lot the last couple of days. I don't know, like what horror movie?
Is there
but just more in like I like ideas. I like ideas, and I like ideas that sort of live. They kind of like a spirit that leaves the body of the movie that lives on after the movie's dead. Does that make sense? Like Let the Right One In had me thinking about like where people get stuck in adolescence and the nature of how like innocence can be, how people can manipulate one another by love and then sex and then the promise of sex and sort of like where does innocence end and where does like adulthood begin, and that's that like watching that movie it's such a head fuck because the real victim of that movie is the little boy, right? And she is this thing that's like older than time who's manipulated his desire to be loved, right? And you're like, oh, because then you see that everywhere. You know what I mean?
It's the difference between a fleeting thrill and a movie that's like so deep and impactful that you can't help but to take it with you and see it everywhere.
Well, right. Yeah. So I brought this up before, and we're going to go way off into a tangent if you're ready for this.
Oh, yes. Bring it on.
Well, people go, why does it have like so much resonance? Right? Why does this? It's a movie about a clown and some kids. It's like, So tell me this. So what's the exact amount of time that it takes for Pennywise to come back? How many years?
27 years.
Okay, right. So in classical astrology, Saturn returns every 27 years. Saturn is also Kronos. Do you know what Kronos is? Kronos is the eater of children. Right? So the king is tapping it. There's a Goya painting. Look it up right now.
Okay, what do we got?
Type Goya Saturn.
Goya Saturn eating was the next thing that came up in Google.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah, this one. Lovely.
You know why I've seen this? This was floating around when we were making Child Eater.
Oh, well,
this is one of Erlinger's reference images.
So, did Stephen King just tap into a larger universal mythology that has always existed in the context of like human understanding, and he just happened to like update it at the right? He just like software upgraded. Right? Do you know what I mean? And so you're like, why do people love this? And it's like, well, because I think it's always been there. 27 years is the exact time that it takes for Saturn to go around the elliptical, right? So it's like, we have a 1 year cycle that Earth moves. Well, it takes 27 for Saturn to do that, right? And I don't know whether he like inadvertently picked up on it or... I don't think it was a conscious thing. I think people are like, why do I like this movie on a clown? It's like, because this mythology goes back thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. There's a documentary coming out on Alien that's basically the same thing. It's called Memory Origins of Alien, and it's all about how Alien is rooted in ancient art and mythology, and that's why it's so
We just tell the same stories over and over again.
Yeah.
We just tell the same stories over and over and over and over again.
But now there's a scary clown in it.
Yeah, totally.
That's very good.
Yeah.
All right. We should wind down the non-spoiler talk because we did want to save some time to talk some It Chapter 2 spoilers with you. But do we want to squeeze in our last two? I feel like you already gave us so many recommendations, but we can do both.
Let me see. What else?
First up, we always
Let me see if I can plug some people that are new that I like.
I like the sound of that. We always end with the same two questions. Given what you just said, I'll go with this one. What is something within the horror genre that you're reading, watching, listening to, anything at all that you would recommend to our viewers and listeners?
In the horror genre?
Anything at all, yeah.
Oh, well, I would listen to all the, like John Carpenter's new record. I think they're putting out something. And then even if you didn't, listen to Lost Themes because it was good. That was really sick. You know that was, right? So it was like John wasn't going to make any more movies. And then Daniel, his son, was like, why don't we make a record together? And so him and Cody, his brother, right, they made this record together as if it was, they would be themes for horror movies that never got made, which is cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Good recommendation there. Question 2?
Yes. Do you have any pets?
Yes.
Excellent.
Do you want to know their names?
I sure do. Names, make, models, all of the details, please.
There's Sonny, who's a sort of Nordic Spitz, sort of, he's like let me just get into the good, we'll get into this, right? So there's Sonny, who is a Nordic Spitz, kind of like he kind of looks like a American Eskimo kind of dog. And then he is 12. He was my dog. Then there was Pig, which is Piggy Smalls. That's her real name. Is a 12-year-old Chihuahua who is a deer head. She's not very bright, but she's very nice. And then I have a cat named Kevin who can use the toilet. Sometimes he shits in the tub. And then I have the baby of the family is a Lynx Point Siamese named Judy, who is like, that's like daddy's little girl. Where literally if she leaves the house, I think she died.
Oh,
Oh, my.
This one will answer to her own name, which is crazy. So like I will call her and she will vocally respond to her. Look at that.
Look at that sweet face, blue eyes.
I know. Here. Why, do you guys have pets?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
that actually has a
We're
semi-Dewey
also-
face.
Isn't it? And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, Dewey talks to me on command.
Yeah.
Which is
Oh, really?
I just can't teach Dewey how to use the toilet. Oh my God.
You can teach Dewey how to use the
You
toilet.
know who this looks like too? Nala Cat.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm obsessed with Nala
This is
Cat.
Lynx Point Siamese. This cat's an asshole, by the way. Like, no. It's like a whole thing. Like, I've been... Like, if the whole house burns down, I'll be like, did she make it out alive? Yeah.
And she would not.
I don't know.
Would she care?
But
Would she be worried about you making it out of the house? No, of course not.
no, she'd probably eat me.
Of course she would.
Yeah.
After we had the earthquakes recently, I tried to invest in emergency bags, and all I did was purchase an emergency bag for Dewey and not myself.
That's very,
Does it
that's
all.
really dumb.
Yeah, no, I know, and I got to put the other thing back on the to-do list. But he's the priority in life.
I see a kind of like Milo and Otis movie pitch.
Oh, no.
Little Dewey with a little backpack on, with a little whistling
Milo and
movie.
Otis traumatized me more than any other horror movie as a child. I just cannot watch that one anymore.
So funny.
All right. So this is where we are going to draw the line. If you are leaving us because you have not seen It Chapter 2 yet, thank you for listening. You have survived a portion of this witching hour, but come back after you've seen the movie because we're going to have spoiler talk with James. So goodbye. Here is the spoiler
You
curtain.
probably left when we were talking about feet anyway.